This is our round pinning exercise, and the object of this is just to get the horse used to where she wants to turn to the inside rather than outside, because the saying goes that you always want two eyes more than you want two heels. So at any point when she wants to know or she's confused about what she should be doing, we want her to learn to look to you for the answer. So this is just getting her to respect humans and to realize that you're the answer, and to keep her eyes on you and her tail away from you. At the very end, she comes up to you when you give her the come here signal, and then she'll follow you around the pen. Kind of gets her bonded and latched onto you. Kind of as a representation that she's listening. And this exercise, you can see I'm doing the marching arms to get her to back up, and or the wiggling the halter and the waving the stick. You can just wiggle the halter too and she'll do it. But in the herd, a form of submission is backing up, so you want to make sure that they are submissive to you, and that's why we do the exercise. This right here is just desensitizing the horse and getting her used to all different things going around her legs, around her body, her neck, her butt. We've done several different things, not just what we showed here in the videos, but the stick and string is a good thing just to get her to start using the thinking side of her brain. So if you're riding her and you notice that she's getting a little spooky, this is a good thing to do, because it grows the thinking side of their brain, and it just makes them start thinking about what you're doing rather than just reacting to what you're doing. The object of this whole thing, we do it on the right side and the left side, because the right side of the horse is a totally different horse than the left side of the horse. So you might teach something on the right side and then go to the left side and it's like they've never seen it before. So we do this on both sides just to make sure that both sides get equal amount of training. And how we started this was, at first we started throwing things over and she would react and she would kind of run from it. We just keep pressure on her. We just keep the same pressure, doing the same thing over and over. And when she got to the point where she stood still, her feet were still, and she gave us some kind of form of relaxation, either cocking the leg or giving you a sigh of relief, or lowering the head. One of those signs, we would stop and we'd give her a reward of backing off. So she learned pretty quick that if she'd just be still when she was uncomfortable, that it would go away. So we desensitized her, and it's letting her just know that when something scares her, she can keep her feet still. Anytime that you're working with her, it's a good idea to make her move out of your space rather than you move out of her space, because in the herd, it's whoever moves their feet the most loses. So you always kind of want to keep your feet the stillest on the ground and make the horse do the moving. So you'll notice that in that part right there, whenever I wanted her to back up, I didn't move back from her. I made her move back from me. And this is a good exercise because it gets them to move their forequarters over. And that's really good, because in the herd, when they're pushing each other around, the most dominant one will push the other ones around. And the very last piece of submission that goes is usually moving the forequarters. So if you can move a horse's forequarters, then you're telling them, I am dominant over you and you need to listen to me. So that's what we're doing right here. I'm not tapping the horse, actually. I'm tapping the air. And so she's moving just off air pressure, which is really good, because there's always 3 levels of training. It's always the air first, and then you tap them, and then you tap them a little bit harder until they get to the point where they can respond off just air pressure, because that's what you want. You don't want to have to make contact with the horse. You want them to be respectful enough that if you ask for something in the air before ever touching them, they're going to do that. Right here, this is yielding the hindquarters. Same thing as the forequarters, but it's just getting their butt to move away from you. And again, I'm tapping the air right here. Now, she doesn't move out of the way quick enough. I might kind of touch her a little bit, but that's about as far as she needs, because she got this one pretty quick. But you always want to be able to move your horse frontwards, backwards, left and right, just by giving them cues. And so that's what we've done here, just to kind of get her used to knowing that she's going to be the one moving and that she needs to be the one looking out for cues. In this one, I'm giving her some pretty big cues because what I want her to do is move her butt a lot quicker to get it out of the way. So over here I'm saying, move your butt, look at me. All right, and then she moves her butt and she looks at me, and that's good. It's just a big wave on the right side to get her to do that, and then a big wave on the left side to get her to do the left side. And that's really good if you're completing like some lunging for respect or something, like on the lead rope, and you want her to get her butt away from you and face you. You can do that real fast, and she can end the note on a good note. Now on this one, it's just flexing her head and neck, so it's going to get her a lot more used to being soft and supple when you start to put bridle and saddle and stuff like that on her. So when you're moving the reins around and you want her to do something, she's going to be a lot more responsive to you rather than explosive. So it's also a really good thing to teach them, so you can do an emergency stop. If she doesn't stop while you're riding her, you can yank her head around like that, and instead of pulling against it like a lot of horses would, she'll actually pull her head around, and you can get her to spin in circles until she stops. It can be pretty dangerous if a horse won't pull their head around and you're trying to stop them and they're running through the bit. So you always want them to be real soft in the neck like that. And she's gotten, you can't hardly see it in the video, but she's gotten to the point where you can just pick up on it with 2 fingers, and she'll pull her head around and she'll touch her lips to her chest right there. And I did it from the opposite side of her right here to show that she's going off of pressure rather than just habit of knowing what to do in a situation. So I kind of tried to confuse her by doing this. So she's used to me pulling from the same side that her head and neck need to come to, but when I get on the opposite side, see, she's wanting to, right there, she's wanting to come toward me. She's like, I know what you want, which is really good, but I want her to work off the pressure, so she got it right there. That was real good. Backing her out of my space right there instead of moving my body. And then I send her off. And this is called lunging for respect. And it's a really good thing to have your horse know, because if you're ever at an event and you're riding them and there's no round pen, you can get them thinking with the thinking side of their brain by doing this before you go off and ride them. So I'm just doing this, and then whenever I'm ready for her to turn, I switch my stick and string into opposite hands, and I step in front of the drive line, which is in front of her head, and it gets her to turn. And so at first she was pretty explosive with this. She didn't like the halter touching her or pulling on her in any way, and so she yanked me all across the arena. But after a couple of days of doing this, she is awesome at it. She got to where she knew exactly what I wanted, and she's being a lot more soft. She's leaving some slack in the lead rope even doing it. Now this is just a sending exercise. I'm getting her in my space because she tried to predict what I was going to do there, but it's a real tight space. It's only about 4 foot between me and that fence, and horses are naturally claustrophobic, so this is a really good exercise because it gets them to trust you. And if you want to send them next to something they think is spooky, this is a really good way to do it if you're not comfortable doing it on their back. So you can send them and kind of let them see it with both eyes, see it with the right eye, see it with the left eye, send them through those spaces, and let them get used to it like that before you're doing it on their back. And you'll notice that every time I send her through, I kind of slap at her tail there, and it kind of gets her to turn and face me like I showed earlier. Now this is just a circle lunging. It's me walking in a circle and her following me, and it's kind of just an exercise. You don't really use it a whole lot, but it's an exercise that gets them to quit being so pushy. So if she gets in my space, I'm going to kind of tap her away, and it just helps with a pushy horse because she's respecting my space right there, and she's looking to me for an answer. She's going at my pace. She's turning when I want her to turn. It's just a real good exercise. Now this right here, the goal of it is for her to keep her head somewhere around my shoulder. I don't care if it's the back of her cheek. I don't care if it's her neck. Just somewhere at the front of her neck to her head at my shoulder. So if I speed up, she needs to speed up. If I take a right turn, she needs to go a little bit faster to catch that wide turn and get around me. So, and if I go left, now I'm going to kind of touch the air to let her know that I'm going left, and she'll have to slow up a little bit and get to the point where she just matches my pace no matter what. So right there, I don't have any pressure on that lead rope. You can't hardly see from the video, but she's got a loose rope right there, and she's going at my pace, which is great. And I turn my head first to kind of give her the signal. I turn my head to show her the direction I'm going to look, the direction I'm going to go, and then she needs to follow. So you'll notice on these turns, I'll turn my head just a little bit first, and they're so into watching for your body signals. They'll notice the slightest change in something that you do. So now if she gets a little behind, you'll notice I'll just take the stick and I'll just kind of touch her on the back end there, and it kind of just tells her, come on, get up here. Once again, she took off when I took off, which is great. I didn't have to pull on the rope. She's slowing down. When I lean back, when you lean back, it's kind of telling them I'm slowing down. And this one right here, she doesn't like so much, but she's getting used to it. It's when you turn to the right and you're turning into her. See, I'm giving her the cue that I'm turning to the right and I'm tapping the air. She kind of puts her ears back. She didn't like it much, but she's getting there. She's turning, so you'll notice in the turn she has to slow up a little bit. And I have to actually I'm keeping my exact pace, but she's having to slow up a little bit because she's in the inside of the turn, I'm on the outside of the turn. In the opposite way that you saw earlier, I was on the inside of the turn, so even though I was keeping my same speed, she was having to speed up on the turns. Don't know how many times you'll be actually running with her, but if you want to, she knows it. Now what we did on this day was we put a little kind of makeshift cinch around her to get her kind of used to what a saddle might feel like without having a full-blown saddle on her just yet. We're kind of getting used to her having something tied around there. And then we've been working off and on just the whole time with the soccer ball, getting her used to something big and spooky, and something that would be able to roll all around her and touch every leg, all that kind of stuff. And she got to where she was great with it. I mean, she doesn't seem to care at all about this ball. Right here, I'm rolling it against her hind legs and her forelegs, and then all around her face. And she'll push it now. She's not totally inquisitive about it, like some horses are, where they'll just be so curious that they'll push it all over the place. She's not real curious about it, but she's definitely not scared of it. So you can walk her up to it and have her kick it, and that's a really good thing if you ever want to play horse soccer, because once you get her broke and she's got a saddle on, you can walk her up to it and you can play horse soccer. Now in this one, we put the drive lines on her, on the cinch, and we just drove her around the pen, just having those lines all over to where she feels them under her tail, she feels them all around her body, they're pulling on her. We've got a bit in her mouth right here, so this exercise makes her feel the pull of like what reins would feel like pulling on the bit. So we're trying to teach her how to stop before we ever get on her. So the saddle is on her, and she did really great with that. They say that the better a horse is in groundwork, the better they'll be under saddle, and that it really shouldn't be a huge problem getting a saddle on them if they've gone through the kind of groundwork that she's gone through, and that proved really true. She just accepted the saddle like it was just nothing. We put it on her, and she was very calm and relaxed, and she doesn't mind these drive lines too much. It took her a little while, but see, when we stop her, we want her to drop her head. We want her to stop and then drop her head a little bit so she doesn't learn to rear up. And then, of course, we'll turn her and pull her, but watch when I stop her right here, she gets it. I'll say, whoa, and pull back, and her head goes down, and that's what we're looking for, so that she did really good at that.